D2L, it's been emailed to you. It's on the announcements, which is the front page of the D2L page for this class. And it's under the content/syllabus section of D2L, okay? I emailed it Sunday hoping you would get it, not realizing D2L wasn't yet open so that you couldn't access apparently any of your courses. And then I did it, I opened the course Monday, but if you didn't look at it, that's fine. I'm Dr. Sherman. My office is go out the door, hang a right, take immediate left into the office block, take a left, take a right, Peck Hall 352. Email, use the D2L email, and that's just because it's easier for me. When you use that email, the email that I receive will tell me what class you're in, okay? I've got 4 classes. Lots of times students will use the regular MTSU email and they won't put a name or anything on it. And so it'll have JW2PC at MTSU at the top. And it's like, I missed class today. I'm like, okay, who of 80 people are you? Kind of a thing. This way I'll know, all right? And it also kind of threads them so classes stay together. Notice there's no phone number up there. It's because even if I'm in my office, I don't answer my phone. If you were to go in my office right now, yesterday morning at this time, there were 60 notifications of phone calls. I'll bet today it's probably 65 or 70 because I get a ton of spam. Stuff telling me, you know, I've won the lottery, the IRS owes me money. No, it doesn't. Various other things. So I literally do not answer the phone at all. Every now and then I'll go through and delete those messages, but usually just let them pile up. Office hours, 7:15 to 7:55 a.m., Monday through Friday, by appointment, before, after class. Best way to reach me is email. Sad to say, I'm connected 16, 18, if I'm not sleeping well, 20 hours a day, because if I'm up at 3 o'clock, I'll sign on. And if you send me an email and don't get a reply from me within an hour or two, that's odd. If you don't get a reply like within 24 hours, you can assume I'm dead. So don't worry about it. So email's the best way. Other stuff you can forget about. Text is this one, the Bedford Introduction to Literature by Michael Meyer. This is the 11th edition. If you found a copy of the 10th edition, that's fine, okay? With this one proviso. If you're using the 10th edition, the pagination, are you Justin?
Yes, sir.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Take a seat. If you've got a copy of the 10th edition, as I said, that's fine, but the page numbers are going to be different to what's on the syllabus. Just 1 second, because I may have actually, I don't think I did for everything. No. For a little bit later in the course, I do have the pagination for the 10th edition included. All right? So if you want to use that one, it's probably a lot cheaper. It's probably cheaper if you buy this anyways through Amazon rather than the bookstore, because you can get used copies usually for a lot less. I really debated whether to even use an assigned physical textbook, because just about everything we're going to read is available on the internet. And the only reason I did it this semester, I probably won't use it again next semester, is because the definitions of terms that are in here are easily locatable, okay? Disclaimer, syllabus is subject to revision, and what that means really is we'll probably get behind at some point. Possibly in the first couple weeks, but I don't really think so. We might get behind talking about a couple of the short stories, but it won't be more than like a day. Where we're likely to get behind is when we get to drama and start reading some plays, and I spend way too much time talking about Sophocles or whatever it is. Where Shakespeare will. Now I've got enough time built in. So, but if we get behind, I'll make announcements in class. And if I remember, I will post those changes to D2L, but if I remember, okay? One thing, I don't know if you saw, I started recording this on my laptop. All of my classes I record and put on YouTube, okay? They're also recorded via, the all-seeing eye up here. So you can go to the D2L page, click videos at the top, drop down, and you'll see the video for that class. These are usually processed, uploaded within about 20 minutes after the class, okay? I like mine better because I think the quality is clearer and the sound's a little bit better. It doesn't necessarily, if I'm wandering all the way over to the door, not necessarily in the picture, but that doesn't matter as long as you can hear. What else? So it's your responsibility to keep track of those changes. If you miss class, don't send me an email, ask what did I miss? Because you can get on videos, D2L, find out what you missed, or you can get on YouTube. And I'll post later on today a link to the playlist for this class. I haven't created it yet. Once I upload today's class, it'll be there, okay? Students with disabilities, you know who you are, you know what you need to do. Do it, what did I say, by, that's Friday, January 20th, okay? Cell phones, laptops, I'm not gonna read through all of this. I am gonna emphasize a couple things. Don't use your cell phone in class. Don't take selfies. I always use this example. I had a student several years ago. It was in another classroom, so we were facing that direction. But she sat like in that back right corner. I'm not kidding. Every day, the first 2 weeks of class, for 20 minutes in a 50-minute class, she sat there and took selfies. I'm like, what gives? And eventually she left. So don't. If you're a first responder, you're an EMT, you're a firefighter, volunteer, etc., let me know soon, like send me an email today, and I'll just say, keep your phone out, keep it on silent. If it starts vibrating and you see you look at it and you get up and leave, no questions asked, I'll understand, okay? The other thing, and I don't like talking about this one because it always happens. If you have, like right now, if the semester began and you're in this situation and you have an ongoing kind of family, medical, some kind of drama, and I don't mean little drama, I mean, it's kind of life-threatening or that kind of thing, let me know. Let me know within the next couple of days, okay? Because I'll tell you, put your phone out, keep your phone out, keep it on silent, and if it rings and you get up and leave, no questions asked, all right? I will do everything I can in those situations to help you do the best that you're able to do in this class. That may mean you not physically show up at all, because you may have somebody in the hospital that you have to go sit with, or you may have somebody in the hospital and so you have to provide childcare or something for that individual. Think of a scenario, and I've probably had it happen in the last 10 years, okay? Similarly, if something happens in the course of the semester, and there's no wood in here, so I can't knock on it. The odds are very great that it will to somebody in this classroom. I mean, I teach 4 courses a semester. I have for the last, 4 or 5 years. And for probably the last 10 years, an individual in every one of my classes, at least one individual in each of those classes has had some kind of major event happen. Not, we won the lottery, other kind of major event, all right? Somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, somebody has a heart attack, somebody has a stroke, somebody is hit by a car, somebody is shot, somebody is stabbed. I've had all those happen, okay? Some of them I've had multiples happen in a single class. One class I had 2 students, fathers die within like 3 weeks of each other, okay? If that kind of event happens, take care of what needs to be taken care of, obviously. First and foremost. But within a couple of days, let me know, okay? Because more than likely I will say, well, first thing I'll say is, I'm sorry, I'll pray for you, what's the person's name, that kind of thing. The second thing I'll say is, this class, in the grand scheme of things, is not important. Family first and foremost, okay? Take care of that. If you have to drop this class, drop the class, okay? That will kind of be the last option, because I will tell you, what can I do to make it so that you can still finish? Does that mean doing everything remotely? Fine, we'll work that out, okay? All the exams, all the quizzes, they're all on D2L. None of that will be done in class, okay? And as I just said, every class session will be recorded and online, all right? So if that happens, again, let me know within a couple of days. Don't let it, give you an example from a couple of years ago. It was fall semester, gave the little spiel, first day of class. The student had something happen to somebody in their family. I think it was about the middle of September. Didn't let me know until just before Thanksgiving. Well, by that point, the student had already missed an exam, not taken some quizzes. And then that student notified me. And I'm like, you should have notified me 6 weeks ago when this first began. At that point, it's kind of too late, because at that point, the student can't even kind of, catch up, do all the reading, et cetera, et cetera. So let me know just when it happens. Similarly, if you know you're going to miss class for some reason, got a doctor's appointment, court date, whatever, both obviously have happened, let me know. More than likely, I won't kind of count that against you, okay? You don't need to worry. Now, I discourage using laptops to take notes, and I don't have it in here, but I mentioned a number of studies. I included that for some reason in my 2 upper division classes, but I didn't include it here. I used to have the links to those studies here that pretty conclusively show students who, assuming you do take notes, which I would strongly encourage, students who take notes by hand retain the material. Because if you're doing this, you're acting like a recorder. You're just transcribing. You're not processing what you're writing. When you handwrite, you process, you filter, you take out all the garbage. And believe me, a lot of garbage coming out. A lot of useless information, a lot of useless words, all right, in that sense, all right? So, and I'm not going to talk about, email, Facebook, Pornhub. I've had it all. I had a student come up one day after class, Dr. Sherman, so-and-so's, surfing Pornhub and all these other, and I'm like, really? And I talked to a couple, and they're like, yeah, that person disappeared. Not because of me, it's just, I said something and that person disappeared. Because MTSU will disappear you if that happens, because that's the violation of the, tech policy and all that kind of stuff, okay? Classroom decorum, read all that on your own. I'll leave the door open and unlocked for probably, first 5 minutes or so. But once the door is closed, the door is closed. If you show up, I'll probably stand here and wave. But again, it'll be on YouTube a few hours later. Headphones, just don't, it's rude. Okay, bunch of other stuff. Down there towards the bottom. Is this the right class? I gotta make sure I didn't screw up the syllabus. I think that's right. You're allowed 3 absences, that is a week's worth of absences. I see eyes going, yes, I can blow off. A 4th absence, and each subsequent absence will result in 5 points being deducted from your overall total at the end of the semester. Okay? But here's the kicker. You're not required to attend. I don't have an attendance policy that says you have to be here. Okay, so seems like a contradiction, right? I won't take roll every day. I will for the first 2 weeks, for the simple reason that we have to report attendance to MTSU next Wednesday because the federal government requires it. Because a lot of you are owned by the federal government, whether you think you are or not. If you have a student loan, they own you. It's called a student own, actually. Drop off the L. And that means we have to report attendance because the feds want to know whether or not they're getting their bang for the buck, so to speak. Okay? And if you're military and getting, it's even more, don't get me going. So, if I take roll and you're not here and it's your fourth absence, I'll just put a little -5. All right? That comes out of the end. It's not like you got a 5 on a quiz out of 10 and you weren't here and I was like, ha, gotcha, 0. It just comes out of the end. Why is that important? There'll be a lot of quizzes in here, somewhere between probably 13 to 15. I will drop at least one, more than likely 2, the 2 lowest, obviously. There's 3 exams. Those exams will probably each have somewhere between 15 to 30 points extra credit. The quizzes, most of them will probably have about 5 points extra credit. You can conceivably finish this course with like 120% average. I've had students do that before, all right? The reason I've done this is because it's because of last fall. It's entirely because of last fall. This same course, 2030, had 2 of them, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. One of them had, I don't remember, 18, 20 students. The other one had 20 or 22. And I would routinely, the 8 o'clock class had 4 people show up. The 9 o'clock class had like 7 people show up. The 9 o'clock was the 20 to 22, okay? So what I started to do, I don't know, sometime mid-October, is the people that would show up, if like only 4 showed up, I'd say, write your name down. You're getting extra credit. And so the same people that kept showing, some of them ended up, some of those students ended up with like 20, 30 extra points just from showing up that day, okay? So I decided to flip that a little bit and do it this way, okay? If I take roll and you're not here when roll is taken, then you're not here when roll is taken, all right? Anything else? Yeah, this still holds true. Failure to complete or submit 3 or more quizzes, so you can forget about the more. Or failure to submit an exam results in failing the course. You don't do an exam, you're more than likely going to even fail the course without this policy, because that's a 0. All right. Had a student last fall, did not take the middle exam, the exam over drama. I emailed him, I don't know, a few days after the exam was due and said, where's your exam? Even though there's a no late, exam kind of thing. Didn't get a response. Student hadn't showed up since like the first week of class, okay? Emailed him again about a week later, no response. The guy takes the final exam. He does most of the other quizzes. And literally, about a week after the end of the semester, like 4 days after final grades have all been turned in and you could access them via, pipeline and stuff, I get an email. Is there anything I can do to raise my grade? I'm like, what? No, I really need to so I can go to the bowl. It's one of the football players. I'm like, it's too late. No, but send me another email. I really have to go. My family really wants me to. And I'm like, you should have taken the exam. Here, look at the emails I sent you. And I copied and pasted the email. And silence, after that. So take them when they're assigned. As I said, quizzes and exams will be on D2L. You will have minimum for quizzes 2 days to get that quiz done. That is, I'll send an email or post an announcement that says quiz number 2 or quiz over is now live. You have until, and that will be at least 2 days later, all right? It'll usually be due at like 12:59 p.m. on some day. Most of those are usually more like 4 days to complete the quiz, and I will send a reminder out every day, okay? The exams, you have about a week. You have about 60 to 90 minutes to complete the exam, but there's like a week-long window to do it. Quizzes, you have 10, maybe 15 minutes to complete the exam. But again, you'll have somewhere 2 days or more to get that done. With the exams, you'll get a daily reminder, okay? All the exams, you'll get a daily reminder. Probably with the quizzes, after the first several, like 8 or 9, you won't get daily reminders because you should know at that point, okay? Quizzes will show up when they're due on the right side of your D2L page in the calendar. So every time you go to D2L, it'll be right there, all right? And I'll probably post, today's Wednesday? I'll probably post a sample quiz first. That'll be extra credit, okay? To give you an idea of what the quizzes look like. Okay. So, said all that. Don't know if I need to go over this or not. Semester grade's really easy to calculate. Total number of points you earn, minus if there's any subtraction because of absences, divided by the total number of points possible for this course. 3 exams, 300 points. Let's say 13 quizzes that count. And just assume 10-point quizzes. I know 1 or 2 of them are more like 15 points, but so 430 points, roughly, total possible. Whatever you earn, divided by that. You want it to be more than 200, because that's like not even 50%. You want it to be obviously substantially more than that. So that's how I calculate the grade, okay? Next thing, and this is kind of what we're going to do very, what time is it, 8:26, briefly today, right? And then I'm going to let you go. You're going to go a little bit early. Look at the passage under schedule closely. So, when reading the material in this book, pay special attention to terms, words, phrases printed in, and then I bold the word bold. For example, in the section of the text on plot, you'll see plot in bold. Exposition, rising action, conflict, foreshadowing. You need to know those terms. Okay? Those kinds of terms probably will show up on quizzes. They won't necessarily show up on just one quiz. For example, we'll be reading fiction, short stories, for what, a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah, at least a couple of weeks. They could show up on any of those quizzes dealing with fiction. You need to know what those terms, the ones in bold, mean, be able to use, apply, define them. Each of the sections, drama, fiction, poetry, has its own set of terms, though they often overlap. They really overlap, okay? Only when you get to poetry do you get some more specialized terms. And when we get to that section, I will tell you the ones you need to know, because there's a bunch we won't pay any attention to that deal with poetic meter and stuff like that, because honestly, I don't think it's necessary information, okay? Terms will often appear on quizzes, will definitely appear on exams. One comment about quizzes and exams, the exams are largely based on the material in quizzes, okay? When you complete your quiz, if I set them up properly, which sometimes I really screw up, you'll be able to go back and look at that quiz later. So that when an exam comes up, you'll be able to go back and review those quizzes seeing, what the correct responses are and such, okay? If there are two sets of page numbers, that's, later on. That doesn't refer to like this. Wait, let me make sure that's right. Two sets of page numbers. Yeah, that's different. Let me see if I can find an example of what that's talking about. Down here. So like for this, two sets of page numbers, this isn't referring here to two different editions of the book. This just refers to, when we're talking about the fiction stuff, the first set of page numbers is going to be the little biographical information about the author. And then the second set of page numbers, like this one here, this is referring to the page numbers that this short story is on. Okay? Same thing. This is about Faulkner's biography. This is where the short story Barn Burning is. Okay? But when you go farther down the page, a study of Sophocles. All right? Or actually, I even have it here. 1120 to 26. These page numbers are referring to the 11th edition. That's this one. Okay? And then I'll have 10th, if you found a copy of the 10th edition, and the page numbers there. Only reason I'm including that is because I had probably a half dozen people in the fall who got the 10th edition because one of the, I think it was Textbook Brokers, had the 10th edition and not the 11th. Why, I have no idea. Okay, I think that's all we need to do from the syllabus. And then the rest of the syllabus is just the assigned readings. Yes, okay, so lights are going to come back on. Why these other ones never come back on, I don't know. We're going to turn display controls off, projector up. So, what I want you to do between now and Friday, I need this again, is for Friday, wrong page, read the background information about Nathaniel Hawthorne on pages 315 to 21. This is all in the syllabus, okay? And then read Hawthorne's short story, The Minister's Black Veil. That's for Friday, okay? Friday we'll discuss Hawthorne and the short story, Minister's Black Veil. It's not really 8, I think it's like 7.5 pages long. It's a short story, okay? But also between now and then, you've got a set of page numbers, I should have left that up, for reading about fiction. And that's all dealing with terms of fiction. For example, the page numbers, what the syllabus says is, reading imaginative literature, pages 1 through 7. All that's about is, what is imaginative literature? Why do you read? Okay? I noticed somebody came in and had some kind of novel. And the way I often begin this course is, how many of you read? I don't mean this and this. I mean read daily. Why do you read? Anybody? Pleasure. Okay? So what do you read for pleasure?
I like supernatural fiction.
Supernatural fiction. What else? Anybody? Fantasy. What else? Horror. Okay? We could probably go around the room. For those of you who are readers, variety of things that you read. How many of you, just kind of come up here and go, wow, probably not. It's not literature, right? Some people would say, yes, it is. It actually is literature. Written words. That's their definition of kind of literature. Low, but it's not Shakespeare, okay? Why do you read for pleasure? Do you like pleasure in your life? I mean, is your life so empty and boring and dull? Yes, for most of us, it is. We need a distraction. Okay? So, this first section that we're dealing with is fiction. Now, everything we're going to read in here is fiction, really. Drama's fiction, because what does fiction ultimately really mean? It's imagined. Therefore, it's not real. Thank you. Right? There was never really a guy named Hamlet who had an uncle named Claudius who took his place as king. By the way, when we get to Hamlet, what I ought to do is I ought to just tell you, go rent a copy or download it or whatever and watch The Lion King, because The Lion King is Hamlet. Updated in cartoon version. It's not as good, which is why we spend we spend 10 days just on Hamlet. 2 days for each act, because Hamlet's really deep. So, the first section we deal with fiction. The next section we're going to deal with drama. We're going to spend not many days on fiction, because if you read, most of you read fiction. Short stories and novels is what is meant generally by fiction. Very few of you probably read drama, plays. You watch it if you watch TV. Well, take that back. If you watch drama shows, sitcoms, things like that on TV. Okay? Poetry, you're exposed to daily, though you may not think you are. If you listen to songs, not instrumentals, songs, lyrics, you're listening to poetry. It may be good, it may be bad, doesn't matter. It's poetry. Okay? So we'll spend a little bit more time on poetry than we do on fiction. But the big chunk will be drama. And that's because we're going to be reading 4 plays. 2 written by a dead Greek from 500 BC, a guy named Sophocles, one of the most important thinkers / writers in the history of the world, so to speak. And then 2 more by another dead white guy, Shakespeare. Okay? Comedy, rip-roaring funny comedy, if you see it, and it's played well, probably his most famous comedy. And then Hamlet, not rip-roaring funny. You end up with a body count, on the stage, right? So the terms that we have here, go back to the syllabus. The first part, reading imaginative literature, shouldn't take you literally more than a few minutes to read. A lot of it you can just kind of go and blow off, okay? The next section, writing about fiction, pages 46 to 49. I should close the door. I always include, because you're supposed to be writing about literature in this course. You're not writing any papers in this class. Almost everybody else who teaches this, you're going to write at least 3 papers. 1 about fiction, 1 about drama, 1 about poetry. I stopped doing that a few years ago. For the simple reason that if you want to kill someone's burgeoning interest in something, make them write about it. And that'll just slit the throat, and that desire will bleed out all over, the page. So, no, we're not going to do that. But the material covered in those few pages, there's only 3. Writing about fiction, it's just a bunch of questions. And you should read those questions, because those questions can help you better think about and understand what it is you're reading about. Okay? And then it gets into, the book gets into the terms or techniques dealing with fiction. For example, plot. Plot is covered under a big set of pages. Pages 66 to 106. Okay? Notice 66, but I don't have 106 over here. Why? Because within those 40 pages, there are several short stories. You don't have to read those. Let me rephrase that. I don't care if you read those or not. Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour is in there. And it's about 2 pages long. It's a great short story. It's a really short story. It's the story of an hour, but it takes about 3 minutes to read. All right? What you have here are the pages within the pages in the syllabus, okay, that have the terms in bold print that I want you to know. So what I've given you here are the pages where the bold print terms are. So if you want to look at the syllabus and go, my God, that's about 200 pages he wants me to read before Friday. Then go to here and you can go 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 8, 9, and maybe at most 30. In other words, if you want to just go to these pages, take note of those bold terms, however you take note of them. I wouldn't say to just look at them and look at what comes after them. If this were me, what I did when I was in your shoes, and I was not an A stellar student, I was an athlete, and really when I was an undergraduate, first 2-3 years, it took 7 years to complete my undergraduate education. I screwed around a lot, okay? But I did, kind of have some study patterns. I would take note, I would write these terms down somewhere on something and write down how he defines them in the book. Another thing you could do, go to the glossary of terms at the back of the book, wherever it is, on pages, good grief, where does that begin? Begins on page 1716, okay? But that gives all the terms that are in bold print in the entire book. It gives them in alphabetical order. So if you start looking at that, that's not going to tell you where the terms are in these pages, all right? But you can write those terms down that are on these pages and then go back to the glossary and go through them. Either way, write them down, write what he says about those terms in that context, or write the terms down, then go to the glossary and look at them. However you want to do that is up to you. Okay? So, you've got several terms about plot on these pages. For example, what is plot? It's the author's arrangement of incidents in a story. What is the plot of your life? Can you give the plot of your life?
It's not really set up like a story.
Really? Might not be a good story, but put that way. You can plot out your life to when? Now. Because you can't plot tomorrow, right? It hasn't happened. Or later on this afternoon. You can plan for tomorrow or later this afternoon, but, knock on not wood, you don't know that you're going to be here tomorrow or later on this afternoon. Okay, I'll tell you right now, a lot of people think I'm morbid. We'll talk about a lot of death. And, last fall when I was teaching, I came in class one day and I said, we were talking about death that is material, and I was like, hear about the students in Idaho? And some students had, and some students hadn't, and so I mentioned their eyes got big, and nearly the same time as the 4 students were killed in Idaho, 2 or 3 students, I think, were killed in either Virginia or Pennsylvania or somewhere. And I'm like, hate to tell you guys, but this is happening, kind of a thing. So, plot, character, right? What does character mean? How do you create characters? Big warning. Take mental note if you don't write this down. There will be a question on a quiz. Okay? Literally. So if you want points for a quiz, I'm telling you them. That asks, how do authors create characters or characterization? If you're sitting there taking that quiz and cheating, that is, you've got Google open, and you put how do authors create characters. I can tell you right now what the very first response will be. Indirect and direct characterization. Those are not the right answers. Okay? Not according to what's in the textbook. Are they forms of creating characters? Yes, they are. Those are different terms to describe showing and telling. Okay? How do authors create characters? By showing us the characters, that is, by letting the characters reveal themselves through their speech and through their actions, or by telling us about them. That is, narrating about those characters. Just wild guess. Which of those is more effective in creating realistic characters? That is, characters you can kind of believe. Showing. Where those characters live and breathe and express themselves, and we hear their words, their motivation, etc., etc., etc. Rather than, John was a, and you just get all kinds of narration about them. Because those people kind of end up being flat and such. Flat is a literary term that we'll talk about. Flat as opposed to round, static, dynamic. Those are all terms that are used in these pages. Okay? Setting. Where is the story set? Okay? The book's going to talk about different kinds of setting. You can have, as in that question, where, physical setting, like where is it located? Okay? But you can have other kinds of setting. What else can be involved in the setting of something? Time. Right? I'll bet when I mentioned Sophocles, 500 BC, somebody in here probably had a thought go through their mind, why are we reading something written 2,500 years ago? What does that have to do with today? How is that, the big buzzword among college students, relevant to my life? You'll see how it's relevant, because Sophocles deals with issues like fate and what's the meaning of life. And then we're going to read probably, I don't remember, did I include it? Yes, I did. Antigone, about a young woman who stands up against the power of the state. Relevant? Yeah. Okay. Setting. So, time, place, culture. Okay. When we read Minister's Black Veil, it's set in Puritan New England. So, time and place, but what else about Puritan New England? What are the Puritans known for? If you know anything about Puritans, what is it? We even use the term, what does puritanical mean? You can't have any fun. Pretty much what it means. Okay? You can't laugh, you can't smile, you can't dance, you can't drink, you can't. It's thou shalt not kind of a thing, right? That cultural ideology, so to speak, right? Then, next section, and these are essentially chapter headings, okay? Lots of stories within each of these. Point of view, how's the story told? Do you have some omniscient narrator who's telling you everything that happens and takes you inside each of the characters' minds and tells us what so-and-so is thinking? That's what it means to be omniscient, okay? Or is it a limited omniscient narrator where the narrator takes us inside one or two people's minds and tells us what those individuals are thinking? Or is it an objective narrator where we're never told what someone is thinking unless the person speaks? Okay? Or do you have a stream of consciousness narrator where the person just blathers on like you're brainstorming something and you just spit out everything in your mind? There are actual novels written entirely like that. Pick up a copy of James Joyce's Ulysses. It is nearly impossible to read because it's all up, well, one, because he kept rewriting it stream of consciousness kind of thing. And it's literally, you go inside one person's mind, and you go inside somebody else's. And how do you think? Do you guys think like computers? Strictly logical, strictly rational? Or do your thoughts kind of go pew, pew, or like a pinball machine? Beep, 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 and you're bouncing all around. That's kind of what Ulysses is like, okay? So point of view. Symbolism. Probably the thing that's going to give you the most hang-ups. Because you probably had English teachers before who said, you know, oh, you got to look for all the symbols. You need to understand all the symbols. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you don't see something as a symbol, that just means you're not in a position to see it as a symbol. So what do I mean by that? It means that maybe in a few more years, you will be in a position. That is, you might have more years and miles under your belt to have experienced more, and you go, oh, now I get what Hamlet was talking about. See, one of my goals in this course is to fill your minds, essentially, with some of this, so that a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll be doing something, you'll be thinking something, you'll be talking to somebody, and that light bulb will go off and you'll remember something from either one of these short stories or one of these plays or one of these poems, and you'll say, Sherman wasn't such an ass. He wasn't as big an idiot as I thought he was. Still a big idiot, but not as big as I thought, okay? Symbolism. Theme. What's the theme? We're going to read something by Flannery O'Connor in a letter where she's going to say, if you can reduce my short story to a theme, then I'm not a good writer. She says it takes the whole story. Does that mean that we can't get a theme? No, it doesn't. What it means is when we are saying what the theme of something is, we've distilled it. We've removed all the so-called impurities, though it's not really an accurate way of putting it. We've reduced it to its bare essence. Okay? And then the last part, style, tone, and irony. Style, how an author uses the arrangement of words and sentences and paragraphs to convey. Tone, what the author's attitude is towards that work. And then the use of irony. You're going to see irony is very big. Give me an example of irony. A one-word example. Sarcasm. You turn in a paper, you turn a quiz, and you get 0 out of 10 right. And I write, say it's a handwritten quiz, and I write, well done. That's sarcasm, right? That means you're dumber than a rock, okay? If I put you're dumber than a rock, that's not sarcasm, that's true. If you turn in a quiz with a 0, and all you had to do was put your name on it, that kind of thing, right? So, those are the general umbrellas under which a variety of terms will show up, okay? 8:52, I said you get out early, 3 minutes. All right, nothing else to do. So, go over these terms and pages, read Nathaniel Hawthorne, Minister's Black Veil, and the brief biography for Friday. I will put up a sample quiz. The quiz will count as extra credit. So, you get 0, it's fine, it doesn't hurt you. You get 10 points, or maybe 15 points, you're starting off ahead. All right, see you on Friday. Wake up. Oh, come on.